Hey everybody, Joe here with the Orbital Drop Crew, and I have slept, I have rested and recovered from the Lonestar Open. Fun fact, it actually just wasn't the one convention for me. I had been at QuakeCon since the Wednesday before. So it was a lot of being away from home and out of my comfort zone, but I had a lot of fun and I'm ready to talk about it. So, kind of going in, I'm relatively new to wargaming, and by relatively new, I mean Halo Flashpoint is my first war game, and I had no idea what to expect going into it because I've never played competitively or anything. So, just had a few game rumble pits here and there, hosted by my co-hosts, but yeah, completely new to competitive wargaming. Had no idea what to expect, and honestly, had been kind of coming into the tournament on a bit of a losing streak. It was just kind of a rough, rough few games beforehand, and I just felt like I couldn't get any of my lists to go. Wound up enlisting Matt and Randy to help me kind of figure out, how I could be competitive with what I bring, and I came into it really kind of, like just hoping my only goal, and I said this to a lot of people at the tournament, my only goal was out of the 5 matches to win once. And if I had accomplished that, I would have left Dallas with my head high, but wound up doing a lot better than I thought I was going to, and a lot of that just comes from the people there who were playing. They were all really cool tournament organizers. Shout out Truth and Reconciliation podcast. They did an absolutely amazing job as organizers. Any questions I had, I could email them straight, and they got back to me pretty quick. And they were also really really good dudes. Speaking of good dudes, got to meet Forging Flashpoint. He was there, and that was really cool. It was kind of, you probably thought I was weird and quiet, but I was kind of low key starstruck. Not gonna lie. Yeah, everybody was really nice, really helpful. As far as like any questions came up about anything, everybody was really cool. It's still a relatively new game, and everybody's still learning and just kind of enjoying that part in the game. But let's get into it. So first things first, my list for the tournament. I was running a assault rifle Mark 7 with the combat knife. Went ahead and spent more for the combat knife because I wanted to have an off presence up close, especially since I knew there was gonna be a lot of objective based games. I was gonna have to, try to scrap it out and survive while I hold objectives. So I wanted to have somebody other than my main up close guy for melee. Next up was the Deadeye, and I elected to go with the commando rifle solely for the ability to pin and try to knock some oddballs out of hands. Number three is just the grenade launcher Gungnir. I brought him because I really liked the grenade launcher from Halo Reach, and it just so happens to have been one of the minis that I actually painted, and it turned out really well, and it might be my favorite right now. But yeah, having tactician guarded, if you're not at least considering putting that in your list, I highly advise you to. And finally, my guilty pleasure, the one that I always seem to come back to, even though sometimes it doesn't really work on a game by game basis, is the Grav Hammer CQB. And this one I had kitted out with the grapple shot to kind of help with the movement, and a med pack just because he is a slow guy, and once he goes down, it takes a while to get him back into position where I need him to be as effective, where I'm getting the value for the Spartan points that I've spent on him. And so giving him a med pack gives him kind of a little bit of boost, as far as, from the RPG world. I kind of consider them maybe temp hit points, or just kind of a little bit more staying ability. and that really is helpful when I remember that it's on him. So as far as the games, the first matchup was Slayer, and I was paired at random against an Atriox list. So it could have been a rough day at the office, but I like to think I held my own pretty well enough. Atriox hurts up close, like believe the hype, but fortunately I was able to kind of make a decent showing with having my Mark 7 with the combat knife. That really helped. And that so especially just kind of keeping Atriox kind of tied up so that I can maybe try to make plays elsewhere. Wound up tying that match, but I again Slayer against Atriox. I I took that as a personal win. The next match was Oddball against a banished list with no Atriox, which was pretty fun. The guy I was playing against, he was another local Oklahoma City guy, and it was real touch and go, and it ultimately came down to my very last activation, and I had the oddball, and I just had to hold on to it, and he had the it was the I want to say the elite with the needler, and he was trying to get me pinned, and just it just so happened the dice worked out in my favor. That's and he had a extra shoot die, rolled it, and still couldn't get me pinned, and I was able to clinch the W in the very last activation. So that was really intense. And then we had a brief little lunch, and then played Strongholds. That one was a lot of fun because there was on the map that we were playing, there was like these acrylic bridges that almost looked like orange hard light bridges from like Halo, which was really neat. And they helped, like, they kind of made it interesting as far as the terrain and trying to navigate and get to the objective markers, because you couldn't just run up. You had to There was a certain box that you kind of had to run up and jump up against. And the entire time I was thinking, man, jetpacks are going to be pretty interesting whenever ODSTs come out, and also maybe flight with the HAZOP, try to make that a bit more appealing as far as taking into lists. But regardless, it was a lot of fun, and was able to secure my second and final win in Strongholds. That was probably, if it wasn't my favorite match, it was definitely up there, because it was hard fought. And at one point, my opponent and I kept getting booped off of the 4 victory point square, and we wound up just getting fragged off of, like, down 2 levels, and just basically in a slap fight because it was my Deadeye and his Deadeye and Gungnir, and not one of those 3 models had a combat knife or anything melee. So it was like I know this is Halo, but I had flashbacks of Goldeneye on Nintendo 64, just slappers only, no odd jobs. But yeah, so that was a really fun match. Number 4 was Capture the Flag, and it was the only loss that I endured in the whole tournament, which I'm not surprised, because this list was just wow. I It was a 2-man Master Chief Spartan Gungnir list, and they were kitted out. They were loaded for bear, and it turns out I was just a little baby cub who can do nothing. But I was able to, so I've lost that one 2 flags to 1, and I feel like I was able to hang in there solely just because of my commando Deadeye being able to pin his Gungnir, because everybody knows you can't pin Chief. And also at one point towards the end, his Chief was going to respawn, and I was able to get my CQB to his back line, And at that point, I decided, like, because there wasn't enough activations for me to make a play for the flag, and I was gonna just get Spartan lasered anyway by the Gungnir, so I could at least try to keep from losing by two instead of just by one, which is what eventually happened. So I spawn camped Chief with the CQB, and that was that. It made for a fun play and a fun picture. And then finally rounding it out was King of the Hill against Forging Flashpoint, which was really cool. But I think by game five, everybody was just so tired and just ready for a break that I got to apologize. I wasn't as quite as chatty and as personable as I could have been, but it had been a long week and a long weekend, but we still had a great time. I was able to secure a tie in the very last little bit, and it was just a really intense and fun matchup. I had a great time. Hopefully he did too, and I hope everybody who I played against had a good time. And then as far as so I wound up going 2 wins, 2 ties, and 1 loss, and I finished sixth overall, which I, you know, I was super stoked about, and I couldn't have been happier with how it turned out. And then I saw the actual points breakdown of everything, and I was 1 tournament point away from placing top five. And then I think it wound up being a 6 point differential. I don't know. I can't speak, between sixth and placing top three. And at that point, I was like, oh, man. So if you're thinking about doing a tournament, take heart. It's a lot of fun. You might, give it a shot. You might do better than you think you will. And also, as a cautionary tale, learn from me. Don't just try to focus so hard on the objectives. Play the achievements. Play for achievements, because that could very well mean the difference between sixth place and like a podium finish. So, but that's really all I've got. I just want to kind of drop in as we are wont to do on this show, and just kind of give an update about my experience at the Lone Star Open, and just kind of give a battle report. Also, encourage other players to pick it up. It's a great time to get into Flashpoint. What with the Banish box having coming out, and we've got ODSTs to look forward to. So be sure to tune in, stay subbed, and play us when you need us.